Hi friends, this is Chris. Welcome back to the channel. So question for you, what does the USA, China, Elon Musk, Bitcoin, and the American consumer all have in common? Answer, they're running out of money. And I want to show you some headlines. You'll see exactly what I'm saying. And let's just jump right in. So the first one, China's state developers warn of major losses as a crisis spreads. And this is something that we were talking about, the Evergrande thing like a year or so ago. And it didn't really go away. We're talking about it. And evidently, though, it is getting worse. So basically, it's all a domino, all these property developers, right? Joe didn't pay Bob. Bob didn't pay Steve. Steve didn't pay Stu. Stu needs to pay, Franny, whatever. and eventually, the circle, gets to the point where, like, no one's paying anyone and the money's, not there. And this was a part of it is saying here, 18 out of 38 state-owned enterprise builders list in Hong Kong and the mainland reported preliminary losses in the 6 months ended June 30th. So basically, these are the government-backed ones, whereas I believe the Evergrande one was private, and there was always talk of like, hey, is there going to be a government bailout, that kind of thing. But when you're having government-backed ones already struggling now, as we've reported, it's like, well, there's nowhere that is safe to put your money. Because essentially, you think you guys understand how this game works. If I'm a property developer and I'm going to build a bunch of buildings, the idea is that you give me money, I build said building, I sell said building, right? And then I give you some profit, etc. But if I build something and I can't sell it, or I start building and I can't finish it, the money's kind of like gone. And that's sort of the situation that we're in. If there's no buyers, you can't do anything. And moreover, this is saying here, 11 warned of a full year losses in 2022. So just these companies aren't making money and everyone needs a bailout, but where's the money going to come from, right? I mean, that's the question. Moreover, this is a crazy thing. This is another headline. China, please visit shadow bank investors at home to quash unrest. So the basic idea, this is the Zhongrong company. So that was the one that put the steel fences around. They were worried that people are going to come to their place of business and like basically throw rocks and do all that kind of stuff to try to get their money back. And then basically the police like had a list of all the people that they owed money to, visited said people's house, or talking rich people. And I guess the police paid them a visit and said, hey, don't come protest and everything's going to be okay. And, that wouldn't make me feel good. The police came to my house telling me that my money's safe. That just wouldn't make me feel good. Moreover, to show that it's definitely not safe, China Evergrande files for bankruptcy in New York. So, evidently there was one analyst that was saying, like, I guess they need $1 trillion from Beijing to rescue them. Where's the $1 trillion going to come from? Well, I tell you where it's not going to come from. It's not going to come from Americans. This, you can read the headline here. Americans have spent nearly all their excess pandemic savings, and the economy may suffer as a result. So the basic gist of it, if you guys understand, sort of, we've been talking about this the last couple of years. During the pandemic, right, people were out buying TVs and doing that kind of stuff because it's all work from home. But they actually weren't necessarily spending all of their money because they're getting all the stimulus stuff, but they couldn't go to restaurants, they couldn't go on vacation, so they were just stockpiling cash. Inflation skyrocketed, you guys know this, and so things are really expensive, and people had cash reserves in order to, pay for higher prices. But when those cash levels are running out, which is what we're seeing here, moreover, we're seeing, you guys can see this here, credit card debt, this is Americans, it's $1 trillion. So you need $1 trillion to save Evergrande, you need $1 trillion to bail out all the Americans and their credit card stuff. Like, where's this money coming from? That's why I mentioned you guys before, like, all these groups, was it China, USA, Bitcoin, Elon Musk, the American consumer, they're all running out of money. Moreover, this is going back to the government. You can read this here. The U.S. is paying a record amount of interest on its national debt. So what is our national debt now? 5.4 trillion. Oh, by 2053. I don't know why they're doing the 2053 thing, but it's a bunch of money. It's not great. And moreover, I've said this to you guys many, many times. If you have not seen this movie, please watch the movie Margin Call. I totally understand the movie The Big Short gets more press and stuff like that, but I think Margin Call is actually a really, really fantastic movie. And the reason why I mention this one, because oftentimes what happens is that behind closed doors, essentially people in the financial world try to keep things secret until they can't keep a secret anymore, and they're basically preparing their parachute. So do watch this if you haven't seen it. And moreover, if you haven't picked up a copy of my book, please do. It's been out for a few days, and already people in our community are ordering the paperback. It's also on ebook Kindle. And this is Dave sent a copy of his book, or sent a picture of his copy of his book, which I think is really cool. So when you get your copy, please send it and I'll share it with everyone. But it's just great to see. So please check out that. I think you'll like it. Moreover, going back to the news here, mortgage rates are the highest. I think it's like in 20 years, something like that. So since or 21 years to be exact, since 2002. So we're above 7%. So this is saying 7.09. The market's a bit spooked because the Fed kind of indicated in their last sort of minutes from the last meeting that there's still upward pressure, or risk is a better way to say it, that inflation could still stick around. So therefore they may have to raise rates. And it's kind of funny because if you watch, people come out on Wall Street, they basically just keep trying to sell you products and that kind of stuff. It's like, we're going to be great. Everything's funky-dory. It's like, I've never said that, because I was like, what are you talking about? And I get it. The market's been going up. I totally get it. But a lot of it's been, and they say that openly, a lot of it's been on this whole AI craze. And the AI thing's always been a bit funky to me too, because it's like, it's so far off in the future. And we're also not even talking about like actual sentient AI. So that they've been using a really, really loose definition of AI. We've talked about this on the channel several times. So, the thing is that if I were watching, or I am watching, if I was to give you advice of what to watch for, yes, watch mortgage rates is a big one. How much money do consumers actually have in their bank accounts / how much are they able to spend? And look at housing affordability. Until those become, at decent levels, it's going to be tough for people to really survive. I mean, look at this. You can read the headlines. U.S. housing affordability hits worst point in nearly 4 decades. So if in your neck of the woods you feel like, housing stuff's expensive, you're not alone. I mean, it's been the most expensive essentially in 4 decades. And you guys know this, basically affordability is like what's your average income compared to how much you can buy a house for, and also look at rates. Moreover, as I mentioned to you guys in the intro, Bitcoin is also running out of money. So this was an interesting one. So Bitcoin took a dive. The last week, it's been like 9-10% down, like just really took a dive. And there's kind of the speculation that the reason why it took a major dive, I think it was just a few hours ago, is because SpaceX released, at the Wall Street Journal looked at it like at their financials, and there was a write-down of $373 million worth of Bitcoin. And so the sort of rumor, because I guess we don't know exactly though, is that Elon Musk and SpaceX basically sold off all of their crypto, and they basically, I'm going to guess here, they sold it for a loss. This is where we don't know, but it spooked the Bitcoin market, and it just reminds me like how much of a clown show this whole crypto stuff is. And I get it. There's people who love Bitcoin, and if I made a Bitcoin video every single day, I'd have like a really popular channel. But I just don't get into this stuff. And it's interesting because like it's supposed to be a hedge against inflation, right? It's supposed to be, but it doesn't seem to appear that way. My feeling is when times get tough, people are like, you know what? Dollar's not looking so bad. And I think people are cashing out for any number of reasons. They need money to pay Joe, and Joe needs money to pay Sally, and Sally needs money to pay Fran, etc. And I think people are just running out of money. There's no more of this, speculative stuff. And if you don't understand this, and I'll make it just super clear, interest rates are really low. The Fed is making, lots of money for everyone. And you had essentially really accommodative monetary policy for years. And this sort of coincided with the rise of Bitcoin. And now that we have quantitative tightening and essentially more restrictive policy, right? It's not like a wonder that these sort of assets may struggle. And you can take a look at this. So this is Bitcoin. It's been doing fine, and it had this like crazy spike, double, whatever peak everyone wants to call it. I think maybe 60 or 70 was sort of the peak of this thing. It's been down quite a bit. It's had a great run this year, but this is a big telling point. Like, where's it going to go from here? So I'm not into this stuff. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on what you think. But I think this to me represents sort of the free money tulip era. And it's true. You can make money if you understand this is a trade and a highly speculative. But if you're just going to hold it and close your eyes, and take the plunge, you're probably going to get burned. I'll give you an example. So this was an interesting one that I've never seen before. Evidently, if you read the headlines here, China's abandoned obsolete electric cars are piling up in cities. So I guess there was so much essentially free money or easy money from the government in China. There was a bunch of like, how can I say, startup-y kind of companies that were, pumping electric vehicle kind of stuff. And they ultimately burned out and failed. And so now you got all these basically abandoned EV cars that no one can use. It's really interesting. I'd never seen this before. I have seen before the abandoned buildings in China. So essentially you're building all of these like new cities that your hopes that, someone's going to rent out, because the idea that there was so much fervor that the country was going to grow by double digit on their GDP every single year. But, the good times don't last forever. And these are just a couple indicators. So you can say the Bitcoin, craze, or the EV craze, kind of died down. Moreover, this is an interesting one, is I see a lot of articles that there's a lot of concern about what's happening with the local currency in China, right, the yuan. And I've noticed, this has been really noticeable, because we're here in Korea, that the dollar is looking really, really strong again. We talked about this about a year or so ago. Last time I checked, the dollar is around $1 is 1,350 Korean won. The highest I got, it was something like 1,400, something of that nature. So sometimes it trades at like 1 to 1,000, but 1,300 is actually pretty high. To me, that just signals that the market's like, hey, I'd rather be in dollars than Bitcoins or say yuan. But it's funny because someone asked me a couple of days ago, like, hey Chris, do you think the Fed will print more, or do you think the Fed will go back to quantitative easing, like more easy policy? The problem is inflation, right? The more you keep it easy, the more money in the system, and you guys get the point. It's the doom loop, right? You pay people more money, you give people more money, prices go up because we all have more, and so you want to control that, because you don't want this thing spiraling out of control. However, as we see with like all of these articles coming out, you're just basically having growing pains. The money's just not there anymore, be it in real estate, be it in crypto, be it in your speculative EV, etc. And and I get it. You still have a lot of people out there that want to go back to the good times, or you have people in their 20s that did not live through the financial crisis. And again, I want to reiterate, if you haven't seen Margin Call, take a look at it, because it sort of represents how these big companies try to keep things secret as long as possible. They start making their moves, and then by the time it hits the news, it's already over, and the dam is broken, and essentially the chaos has been unleashed into the world. So that's what I have to leave you with. I'd love to hear your thoughts on any one of these stories, and I'll catch you in the next video.